Correct, Mo.
Short again.
Joy. Joy, as we've explained many times, is not happiness. Happy is about receiving something in your life that makes you happy. So for a little child, they get a candy, they're very happy. They're happy. Adult wants adult candy, right? A new car makes somebody happy, right? Or a relationship makes somebody happy, right? But that's about receiving something. That's happy. By the way, welcome, Cantor. You know, in Hebrew, there's no word for happy. You know why? Jews, they're miserable people. They're never happy. They're never happy. Yes, I know. But you know what they are? They're besimcha. Simcha means joy. Joy is not happy. Happy is about receiving something. Joy is about a disposition, a mindset, an attitude. That's what joy is. To be full of joy. So we've been speaking about this here in Tanya since chapter 25 about how to constantly have joy. Why is that important? Because without joy, you can't deal with life. Because life is not going to be perfect. Mm-hmm. There will be curveballs that will be coming your way that are not exactly what you expected, intended, whether it's issues of health, livelihood, relationships, whatever it is, or it could be your own lack in feeling less than in your life because, hey, we are not up to par maybe of what we should be. All of that needs to be dealt with, but it won't be dealt if you don't have joy. So the first form of joy would be after actually owning what you need to own, owning what you need to own, dealing with it in the appropriate manners we've learned in the past at great length. And now comes double joy, because now you don't come from a place of either down or even a bitterness to change direction in your life, but you now bring back joy, simcha. And that simcha is a double simcha. That was the first level that we spoke about. The second level of simcha that we then continued is to take the awareness that my animal soul and my body, yes, it is something that is my first responder, and that's how I look at life initially, is based on me. What's good for me? What makes me happy, right? That's based on my animal soul. However, that animal soul is not the me that I want to identify with. I identify with the greater me, my divine part within me. That gives joy itself, to identify with the divinity that's within you. And not only that you identify with it, but then you do everything in your power to release it from its imprisonment. And that's great joy. The metaphor being, of course, the son, the crown prince, the son of the king, who's in prison. When the son of the king is in prison, is he still the king's son? Is he still the crown prince? Absolutely. The only difference is he can't act the role, if you will. He can't act it. Why? Because he's in prison. So he's got to do other kind of things. So our divine soul is in prison. Where is it in prison? Well, in my body, in my animal soul that kind of controls. But when I'm going to focus in that my identity, my real identity is the divine within me, my neshama, my soul, that's a part of God. And I'm going to do everything I can now to release it from its imprisonment. I'm releasing it from its imprisonment. How? By doing another mitzvah. Whether it's giving charity, whether it's praying to God, whether it's, as we're doing now, learning Torah, learning Tanya. That I release the divine soul from its imprisonment. And I'm going to make an effort that's my whole focus.
That's our purpose.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. And from there, because you make your body secondary and you make your soul primary, we came to an appreciation of how you can have love your fellow Jews yourself, because this is what you love in you, so then you can love another as you are, and you are what you put your focus in, not your animal soul, not your body, which makes you distinctive from everybody else, but the divine soul within you, which every fellow Jew has an equal divine soul as you do. And then we went off into many other things related to that. That's what we did. Welcome to Tanya today. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you from Chabad Zechron Kadeshim in Montreal, Canada. It's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya. We now go to another level of joy. When we speak about that I identify with my divine soul, and I put my effort in my life to extricate it from its imprisonment of the body and animal soul, that it shouldn't dictate its way, I'm releasing the crown prince from imprisonment and bringing him back to his father's home. Father in heaven, we're bringing the soul back to connect to God. That's amazing. But now there's another means that can lead a person to true joy at specific times, and when you find it necessary to purify your soul, to illuminate with the gladness of heart. Think deeply with your mind, with your intellect, to understand God's true unity. That's where we're going. Understand God's true unity.
Materially as well.
In
material. Well.
What does that mean? God's unity. That God permeates all the worlds, the upper and lower worlds. There's an immanence of God. God is present, very present. And at the same time, he's beyond the world. He's all-encompassing of the world. He's not limited or defined by his immanence within the world. In other words, if you take a leaf and you look at the leaf, or you take the palm of your hand, and you can see how that's a reflection of the divine will of God. Right?
Yes.
Yesterday I went to a chiropractor, so I had some whatever, something. So something, the shoulder blade. So he went on the right shoulder blade, left, above the waist, just, I don't know, did something there, and it went away completely. Literally went away, the pain that I had.
Wonderful.
Point being, everything's connected. They went to the root of the problem, wasn't the shoulder blade, and right. To me, that was God's immanence within this world. So clear, God's presence within the body of the individual. Now, just using the facilities, using the bathroom, you see how, right, making the after blessing of being in the bathroom, using the bathroom, that we can relieve ourselves, right? If you couldn't, ooh, you know what kind of trouble that is. Right? It's in the morning blessings, yes.
Yeah.
And so just to see how everything is in the body connected. Wow. To me, that's God's immanence. One of the ways, right? Seeing how it's a reflection of the divine will, even more. Totally. But then at the same time, God's not limited within nature. He's beyond nature. He's beyond, he encompasses nature. He's beyond, transcends the human condition and the created condition. And furthermore, everything before him actually has no reality in his presence. Nothing. Just as before God created the world, there was nothing but him. After he creates the world, there's nothing but him. Right? He's one and alone. Nothing changed. And if you recall in chapters 20, 21, we learned this idea, right? One word. God creates the world with a word. Bereshis. Everything came into being. Entire soup mix. Everything's there. One word, God creates everything. And, or by his word, he creates everything individually. How is that word in respect to where the word comes from, your thoughts? Well, incomparable one word compared to the power of thought. Power of thought is endless. Where do your thoughts come from? Emotions. Emotions? And where your emotions come from? Intelligence, perspective, the way we perceive things. We do not perceive or feel things in language. It's beyond language, right? We express in language. I can say, I love you, right? You're wonderful. That's an expression of love. But the feeling of love is beyond languages. Ah, right? That's every language, right? So the word of God is the way it is in that feeling is completely not we don't mean here the impact of the word, but the very capacity of a word, right? The value not the value in and of itself, yes, in and of itself is nothing compared to the emotions where it comes from, or the intelligence where it comes from, completely nullified. So is the word of God that he creates this world is completely nullified, that is of no existence. All there is but God. Another metaphor that we have for this, that the Alter uses here, and he will use later on, is the ray of sun, right? The ray of the sun, it emerges from the sun. Well, how's that ray within the sun? Do we call it sunny boy? No. Do we call it sun? No. We call it sun. I mean, sorry, we don't call it ray of sun. Do we call him Ray? Like, you know, Sunny Boy's, his name is Ray, right? No. You call it sun. Because the ray of sun within the sun is completely nullified there. It doesn't have a name. It doesn't have an independent existence. When it emerges from the sun, it does. Now, where does metaphor fall short? Is that the sun is only one place, 93.5 million miles away from here. So, but in that metaphor, the rays of the sun that are in the sun are of no identity of its own, doesn't have a name of its own, an existence of its own. It's part of the sun globe. Now, again, the sun is only in one place. God isn't. So therefore, that which emerges from God is really the ray of sun within the sun, is the metaphor. So nothing emerges as outside of sun, of God, of the sun, yes, but within the sun it's not. And that's a metaphor for us to appreciate how everything is nullified in its source. The ray of sun within the sun in its source, nullified. Well, the sun is only one place, but God is everywhere. So we are nullified in the source of God. That there's nothing but him.
You can actually picture that.
Well, because you can picture the ray of sun within the sun.
Or can
You can understand a word, right? is incomparable to the power of your speech, even more incomparable to the power of your thoughts, and even more incomparable to your feelings where those thoughts came from. Right? Because you think what you think, because you feel what you feel. We've learned this at great length in the past, just some reminders over here, right?
It's personalized nullification. That's interesting.
So what comes out of this is God's unity, that he alone exists and there's nothing else besides him. Now, contemplate upon this. The point over here is to think about this. Contemplate about it deeply. God's unity. Then your heart will rejoice in this faith, and your soul will be gladdened, rejoicing and singing with your heart and soul and might. Right? That you're going to feel actually in this faith, right? Because this is faith, meaning, even though we explain this, Chabad intellectually, but, it's not something that we get with our five senses. You don't smell this idea. You don't see it physically, this idea. We have a metaphor to give us an explanation, but, it's still, if you will.
The soul isn't nullified.
No, this everything, not just the soul, everything
The
is
soul is also nullified?
everything. It's part of God. Not right. So
Oh, but freeing the soul.
no, that was before. This is a new idea now, a new joy, a new idea how to bring joy. So this actually constitutes an experience of closeness to God. When you, right, this is a closeness to God, and this is the whole purpose of man, and the purpose of which you were created for, and all the worlds were created for. That God should have a dwelling place here below. Something we'll learn more about right now. That dwelling place is in my mind, that I think about him and think about how I am, and everything is nullified and a part of him, not separate from him. Ooh. Now the Alter Rebbe gives a beautiful metaphor for this. Follow carefully. Here's a simple idea. Imagine you're a simpleton, a pauper. And the king is coming to your town, and he is going to stay over in your dwelling. Wow. The king is going to stay in my home? What a joy. I'm so special that the king is going to dwell in my home? Where's your home? Where do you live? You don't live in a physical home. You live right here in your thoughts. Think about God and think about that God is dwelling in you because you made the space for him. He's dwelling in your mind, in your thoughts, because you're thinking. And how's he dwelling there? In a way that he is the only reality. That's what you think. Because based on what the teaching we just gave over here on how to think about that. Ooh, is that a closeness or what? God's living in your home. Right? I've told this story before. Once went to an office of some friend, and his 90-year-old mother was at the reception, full of life. Drove to work and was, wow, 90. So I asked her, wow, it's amazing. I need you to, to meet my mother, then give her some, such vigor. I asked her, where do you live? So she told me, da, da, da. So I said to her, no, you don't. You don't live there. She looks at me a little odd. I ask her again, where do you live? So she says, she gives me, the address. Been living there for over 30 years. She says, no, you don't live there. Maybe you go to sleep there. Maybe you eat dinner there and do some other things there. But you don't live there. You live right here between your ears. In your thoughts, that's where you live. So the metaphor over here, we're saying that the king is coming to live in your dwelling. Well, where do you dwell? Well, if you're thinking about God and how God is the only reality, are you distant from him or close? You're a part of him. You're very close. What should that do? Bring great joy. Is the joy coming because I did something? Yeah, the only thing I did was think the reality of God, that is, he's immanent, he's omnipotent and all encompassing, and furthermore, he's the only reality. He's the only thing. And when I think about that in my mind, I now housed not just that idea and not just that truth, but God himself in my mind. That should bring you to your heart a feeling of joy. This is a greater joy than just identifying with your divine soul.
Wow.
Because this is now identifying with God himself, the source of that soul.
Okay.
That in you, you are completely bound up with God. Not even because you did a mitzvah, right? A mitzvah reveals it. But the very fact is that thinking it, I become an abode for the divine. That's powerful. That's beautiful.
Pure humility, eh?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, bring humility.
Total. You has no idea.
So, Lisa, instead of everything being nullified, it's nullified and therefore unified. Right? And therefore unified. I hope that that was clear. Okay, I don't see any questions. How do we know that God is one, a complete unity? To know, oh, sorry, not you didn't ask, I'm sorry. To know that God is one, a complete, yes. Yeah. Yeah, that's something to live with. All right, folks. Amazing. We will continue our conversation. Well, next is Rambam. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine coming to you from Chabad Zich and Kadesh, Montreal, Canada. It's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you, Tanya. Have an amazing, great day. And come join us now for Maimonides, Rambam.